Hi, welcome to this orientation session of IELTS. In this session, we'll focus on all the minute details of what IELTS is. At the same time, we'll see what all we must know before we start preparing for this test. What are we going to do in this session? Let us have a clear understanding. Let's just have a look at points that we'll discuss in this session. We'll understand what is IELTS, then we'll understand the difference between academic and general training, who should take which one. We'll also look at the format of this exam in detail, for which first we'll understand the band score, then we'll see how they are calculated. After that, we'll focus on the 4 modules which are conducted in this test, which are listening, reading, writing and speaking, with which we'll also see how their individual band score is calculated. At the end, we'll also look at the difference between computer-based test and paper-based test. And after that, we'll understand how we are going to conduct the course. Let us start with understanding what is IELTS. See, IELTS is nothing but a simple acronym of International English Language Testing System. What does it mean? It means it is a system which is going to test your English language at an international level. Simple as it is, right? So when you appear for this test, you are rated on a band scale of 9, of 1 to 9, okay? Where 9 is the highest and 1 is the lowest. In fact, 0 is the lowest, where 0 means not appearing for the test itself. Now, who should take this test? Why are you supposed to give IELTS? Well, if you're planning to go to abroad for foreign education, for the studies after 12th, after graduation, in fact after post-graduation also, sometimes for PhD programs and all. So you can opt for this exam. There are many candidates who take this test, especially when they are going to abroad for work as well. We'll understand that difference also in this session. So let us first quickly talk about what is academic and what is general training. So basically, IELTS is of 2 types, okay? Whenever you're planning to take this test, you must know you want to give academic or general training. Let us understand the difference. Honestly, there isn't a huge difference between the format of the exam, but then it is important to know which one you must take. If you are a candidate who wishes to go to abroad for studies, then you should go for academic. However, if you're planning to migrate or work abroad, then you have to take general training. So as I said, there are 2 types, IELTS academic and IELTS general training. Okay, I hope this much is clear. Great. Let's proceed further. Now, be it academic, be it general training, the format of the exam remains the same. What is the format? You will be appearing for 4 different modules. That means your entire test would be conducted in 4 modules. These 4 modules are listening, reading, writing, speaking. These 4 modules are common for academic as well as for general training. Before we proceed further, let us understand these 4 skills. We call them modules here. When we are preparing for IELTS, we call them modules. What are modules? Well, modules are nothing but let's just consider them as different papers, like you have appeared for your exams in 12th or graduation. So how many exams were there? You had English, you had maths, science, social science, like these were the different papers, right? Here we'll consider these 4 as papers. In IELTS terminology, we call them modules, okay? Now these modules are listening, reading, writing and speaking. If you can see, these are the basic 4 skills which anyone must know if they claim that they know this particular language. Any language. For example, if you say that you know Hindi or French for that matter. In that case, how would I know that you know French? I would like to see you listening and understanding French, read and understand French. You should be able to write in French, of course. You should also be able to speak in French, correct? So these are the 4 basic skills. If you know these 4 skills of any language, one can say that yes, you are fluent in this language. So what is IELTS? IELTS is also nothing else but is just checking your English proficiency, correct? I hope this much is clear. So be it academic or be it general training, these are the 4 skills which are judged and on the basis of which you get a band score. So as we just saw, these 4 skills are common for academic as well as for general training. Now, what is the difference between the two types? Now, as you can see on the screen, listening and speaking are exactly and absolutely same for academic and general training. You will be sitting in the same exam hall, listening to the same audio. I'll explain what these audios are, don't worry. So you will be appearing for the same paper. An academic candidate will be appearing for the same paper as a general training candidate. Okay. Now, what is the difference? The difference is only in reading and writing. Well, again, to be honest, there isn't much difference. Okay. In this session itself, we'll understand the difference also. In fact, we are going to dig a little deeper in this session itself so that you have much clarity of what is IELTS and how you should be preparing for it. Okay, I hope you have now clearly understood which exam you have to appear for, academic or general training. Plus, you have understood that there are 4 modules and why are these 4 skills important to check your English proficiency. These 4 modules are judged on a scale of 9, as I have already mentioned. These are the band score. As you can see, 0 to 9. 0 means did not attempt for the test and 9 means expert user. If you are an academic candidate, majority of the universities will accept a score somewhere between 6 to 7. There are few, of course there are exceptions. There are few universities which may accept a little less than 6 or a little more than 7 would be the requirement. So it depends majorly on the university or the country that you're applying for. When it comes to general training candidate, means those who are looking for job or migration abroad, they have to check with the organization, the country and the rules set by them for IELTS. What is the requirement? Because the variation is huge. There are some profiles for general training candidates I'm talking, right? There are some profiles for job where the requirement is sometimes 4 or little higher than that, 4.5. But then there are some professions or some profiles where the requirement is 8 or above. So it varies a lot. However, as I said, for academic, it doesn't vary much. It's somewhere mostly, okay, in general I'm saying, between 6 to 7. So, well, requirement is something that you must know and your counselor will be telling that to you. So don't worry about that, alright? Whatever your requirement would be, we'll work on that and we'll work accordingly. Now we have understood what is a band score. Let us now understand how a band score is calculated. As you can see on your screen, to give you a band score in IELTS, they have to balance each module, right? So, it's a very simple logical calculation, okay? Each module, there are 4 modules we know, right? Listening, reading, writing and speaking. Each module has equal weightage of 25%. What does it mean? It means that each module will be individually judged on a scale of 9. So, you will get a score out of 9. Let's say you're getting 7 out of 9 for listening, 8 out of 9 for reading, 7 out of 9 for writing, and then again 8 out of 9 for speaking. So, your overall score would be 7.5. How? It would be an average of 7 plus 8 plus 7 plus 8 divided by 4. Why 4? Because each has equal weightage. So, an average would be taken and you will get your overall band score. So, your overall band score would be 7.5. What is 7.5? It's your overall band score. Alright, remember that. So, as I said, you will be judged individually on each module. Plus, you will get an overall band score. I hope this much is clear. Okay. Now let us look at each module in detail. We'll start with listening, then we'll go to reading, writing, and then speaking. Let us start with listening module. In this module, you will listen to certain audios in English, of course. So, there would be some audios played. You will listen to those audios and simultaneously, you will have to mark the answers which would be there on the question paper. So, when you go to the exam hall, you will get an audio, you will get a headphone basically, and you will also get a question paper on which there would be some questions written. The questions will be in different forms. They can be in multiple choice question types of format. They can be in filling the blank kind of format. There are different types which we'll detail when we start the session. So nothing to worry. So far it is important that you understand how this test is conducted. So in listening module, you will have total 40 questions which you will have to answer based on the audio that you will listen to. Okay. So these audios will be 4 separate audios, 4 different audios which will be played back to back. Okay. Each audio will have 10 questions. Where would these questions be? These questions will be on a question paper. Okay. You will get a question paper, you will get a headphone. Whatever you are listening to, based on that, you have to simultaneously, at the same time, mark the answers also. These questions can be in different forms. They can be multiple choice questions, they can be fill in the blanks, they can be any. This we will understand much more in detail when we start the session. Okay, so don't worry. Now, these 40 questions divided in 4 parts. Each part has one audio. Okay. This session will take around 30 to 35 minutes approximately. Why approximately? Because the length of the audio may vary. Okay. Some audio can be of 7 minutes, some can be of 8 minutes. Okay. So there would be 4 audios. Now if you can see on the screen, I have made an arrow which is going upward. Means what? Means your difficulty level will increase with each part. That means part 1 would be the easiest, part 2 little difficult, part 3 little more difficult, and part 4 little extra demanding. Okay. Don't worry, we'll understand all this also much more in detail. What we need to understand right now is, as we can see that there are 40 questions. We also know that listening is also scored on a band scale of 9. How is it calculated? Let us quickly have a look at that. So, based on your score out of 40, as much as you score, you get a band score. Here is a sheet. As you can see on your screen, on the left hand side, we have raw score. Raw score means, for example, out of 40 questions that you solve, you get, let's say, 27. So you fall under this category. So your score would be 6.5. Simple. So this is how you calculate your band score based on this sheet. I'll be sharing the study material with you once we start the sessions, and in that there would be other notes like band score sheets, many other things I'll tell you. Okay. So your ambition should be to score higher and higher, right? So the more you score, the better would be your band score. So this is about listening. I hope you have understood how a band score for listening individually is calculated. Now let's come to reading module. Reading, as we know, is different for academic and for general training. So what we'll do, we'll first compare the two, academic and general training, and then we'll see the differences and the similarities. So let's talk about academic for now. Reading academic is conducted in 60 minutes of time. And remember, only 60 minutes. You will not get even a single second extra to complete your reading test. 60 minutes means 60 minutes. In these 60 minutes, you have to solve 40 questions again. These 40 questions are based on different passages. You read a passage, each passage will have certain amount of questions after that, and based on the passage, you have to solve or you have to answer these questions. Simple. Something that you must have done in your school as well. Something like unseen passages, if you remember, if you can recall. Yeah, this is something similar. You have a passage, you have questions, read the passage, read the questions, answer the questions, finish. Easy, right? Yeah, sounds easy, definitely. We'll see how we can make it actually easy. Okay, so coming back to reading academic, there would be 3 sections, okay? Just like listening has 4 parts, here we have 3 sections, okay? In these 3 sections, for academic, we'll see each section has around 13 to 14 questions, right? What we have seen so far, we get only 60 minutes of time to solve 40 questions. There would be 3 sections. In each section, there would be 13 to 14 questions, which means, for example, if section 1 has 13 questions, section 2 has, let's say, 14 questions, then section 3 will obviously have 13 questions, so that the total comes to 40. Clear? Now let's look at reading general training. Let's look at the similarities. What do we have? We have only 60 minutes. A general training candidate also has to solve 40 questions, and then again there are 3 sections, and each section has 13 to 14 questions, right? Okay. Now, if this much is similar, what is the difference? Let us now look at the difference. So, reading academic here, each section will have one long passage. That means reading academic has 3 long passages. But when it comes to general training, what do we have here? Here, for section 1, we have 2 small texts. For section 2, again 2 small texts. Section 3 has 1 big passage. So again I'll say the similarity is section 3 is same, just like academic. When I say same, remember I'm not saying that the passage would also be same. The passage would be different. Of course, the length, the difficulty level, all that would be same. In fact, in section 1 and section 2 of general training, we can see that the difficulty level is almost same, but just because the length of the passage is small, it becomes easier to solve, right? So how are questions divided? Well, in section 1, we know that there are 2 small passages, okay? So let's say text 1 and text 2. Section 1 should have 13 to 14 questions, right? So they are also equally divided. Let's say text 1 has around 6 to 7 questions. Text 2 will also have around 6 to 7 questions. But the total should be 13 or 14. Same logic is for section 2, where there are 2 texts, text 1 and text 2. Questions are roughly 6 to 7 per text, correct? So that the total comes to either 13 or 14. And then for section 3, which is one long passage, there would be total 13 or 14 questions. The overall total of all 3 sections has to be 40 questions again. Same logic we have seen for academic as well. So now we have understood the difference, that in general training, the only difference is that section 1 and section 2 has 2 small texts instead of having 1 long text, just like in academic. Now the question again is scoring. So here also we have a sheet. We have 2 separate sheets, remember. This is for academic and this one is for general training. These are the band score, IELTS band score, and these are raw scores, right? So let's talk about academic. For example, if your target is 7, your score should be somewhere between 30 or 31 if you're an academic candidate, right? Let's say same is the target of a general training candidate, that is score 7. You see, a general training candidate will have to score 34 or 35 correct answers out of 40 to make sure that he or she gets 7. Why is this different? As you can see, when passage is small, when the text is small, it becomes easier and faster to solve, right? So it is considered that IELTS reading of general training is easier compared to IELTS reading academic. Slightly. There isn't much difference though, don't worry. So far, we have understood listening and reading module. We have seen their formats. Plus, we have also seen how a band score is calculated on the basis of the raw score that you get out of 40 for listening as well as for reading. Now, let's come to the next module, which is writing. As we know, writing is also different for academic and general training, correct? But I told you there isn't much difference. So what we'll do, we'll first try and compare. Okay, we'll look at the similarities, then we'll talk about the difference. Let's first talk about writing academic. For writing module, you get total 60 minutes of time, not even a single second extra. Remember this. When we say 60 minutes, means 60 minutes. Okay. So total 60 minutes of time in which you have to solve 2 tasks, task 1 and task 2. For task 1, the minimum requirement of words that you have to write would be 150 words. I'm saying minimum, it's not maximum. Maximum is you can write as many words as you want. Minimum 150 words. Okay. For task 2, you have to write minimum 250 words. You can of course write more than 250, but you should not write less than 250. That means if you write less than 250 means even 249 words. Remember the words would be counted literally 1, 2, 3, 4. Make sure that you write a little more than 250. So we have seen that there are 2 tasks for writing academic which are to be completed within 60 minutes. For task 1, you should write minimum of 150 words. For task 2, you have to write minimum of 250 words, right? Now let's see what are these tasks. We'll talk about task 2 first. In task 2, you have to write an essay of at least 250 words. Okay. Task 1, we'll come to that later. Let us first look at writing general training. Here again, we have total 60 minutes of time, have to complete 2 tasks, task 1 and task 2. For task 1, the requirement is 150 words minimum. See, it says at least. For task 2 again, the minimum requirement is 250. In task 2, what does a candidate do? A candidate needs to write an essay. Okay, what is this essay? Be it academic or general training, you will be given a topic. You will have to write an essay on that, just like you have done in your school. Yeah, it sounds easy, right? It is actually. You just need to understand basics. You will be able to write wonderful essays. Don't worry. We'll do that in the sessions. In fact, in a while, I'll explain you how we are going to cover the sessions as well. Wait till that time. So we have seen the similarities. Now let us look at the differences. Talking about writing academic, in task 1, you will be summarizing a diagram. That means you will be given a diagram and you have to give a summary of that diagram. When it comes to general training, in task 1, you will be writing a letter. That's the only difference in academic and general training writing. Okay, I hope this is clear. So far, so much is clear. Okay, when we say that reading and writing are 2 separate modules for academic and general training, they are different, but as we have just seen, they are not very different. Now, in listening and reading, we saw that there were raw scores. That means out of 40, you have to score some you have to answer some correct number of questions so that you can convert it into a band score of IELTS. How do we do that for writing now? So there are certain set parameters. You can think of few. Try thinking. Can you think of certain parameters, some logical idea behind how a band score is calculated for writing? What can be the parameters? Let's say grammar, spelling, good choice of words. What else can you think of? Come on, try thinking. So now let us look at the assessment criteria of writing. So basically there are total 4 criteria based on which your entire writing module, individual writing module is judged. These 4 criteria are task achievement or task response. Second one is coherence and cohesion. Third one is lexical resource, and the fourth one is grammatical range and accuracy. Of course, I'm sure you must be thinking about what are these terms, what do they mean, what is the meaning of task achievement and task response, what is the difference between task achievement and task response, what is the meaning of coherence and cohesion, what does lexical resource means, what do you really mean by range of grammar, right? So we'll talk about all this a lot more in detail when we cover this module in sessions. So far, we need to understand how the band score is calculated for writing, correct? Understand this now. Each criterion will have equal weightage of 25%. Okay? Each criterion will have an equal weightage of 25%. That means each criterion is equally important. Okay? Now, in writing, we have 2 tasks, task 1 and task 2, correct? So what they do is, they judge your task 1 separately and task 2 separately. That means, now we know that, okay, each criterion has equal weightage. So they will judge you on each criterion on a band scale of 9, individually, for both tasks separately. Look at this. So for example, in task achievement for task 1, you get, let's say, 5. In coherence and cohesion, you get 6 out of 9. In lexical resource, you get 7 out of 9. And in grammatical range and accuracy, you get 8 out of 9. So what would be the average? How would they calculate the score of task 1? Again, 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8 divided by 4. Why? Because each criterion has equal weightage. Correct? So equal weightage means average. Okay? So your score for task 1 would be 6.5 out of 9. This is for task 1. It is still not the entire individual score of writing module. We are yet to come to that. Similarly, your task 2 score will also be judged on a band scale of 9 again. Let's say your score comes down to 7.5 once the average is taken. Okay. Now, if this is your task 2 score, how would your writing score be calculated? You would say it should be task 1 score plus task 2 score divided by 2 to take the average, right? So, task 1 is 6.5 and task 2 is 7.5 divided by 2. No, this is now how it would be done. You can see, be it academic or general training, you are writing more words for task 2, 250 words, right? So, there would be more weightage for task 2. So, the task 2 weightage is double, and that's why the task 2 score is added twice. So, how would they take the average now? The average will be taken by adding 6.5, that is task 1 score, plus task 2 score twice divided by 3. Why? Because now there are 3 entities, no? Average we have to take, correct? So, your total score here would be 21.5 divided by 3, which would be 7.1. So, this comes to 7. Your individual band score for writing module would be 7. Alright. So, understood how your writing score is calculated? Writing individual score, where your task 1 score is added with task 2 score. The task 2 score is added twice, remember, and then an average is taken. That means task 1 score plus task 2 score plus task 2 score divided by 3. Okay, remember this. This is how you get your writing individual overall score. Why I'm saying overall here? Because you have 2 separate tasks. Okay, remember, don't get confused with the actual overall of IELTS score. I'm sure you won't. You're smart. Okay, now the question is, who decides that I'll get 5 out of 9 for task achievement in task 1, or I'll get 6 out of 9 for coherence and cohesion, or 7 out of 9. Who decides? Who decides? Who says that, yeah, okay, this is what you should score? For example, I am reading your answer and I feel that you should get 7 for vocabulary for task 1. But if some other person reads and says, no, I don't think 7 is good, I think it should be 6. Okay, a person sitting in China may say no, 7 is good. A person sitting in France may say no, 6 is good. Who decides? There has to be certain set parameters, right? There has to be certain description given to the trainers or the teachers or the examiners who are going to evaluate your answers, right? For that also, standard band descriptors, a public version means which is available for public, okay? A public version of band descriptors is available, which we can refer. Now look at this, it becomes so easy, right? Look at this now. What do we see on the screen? We have 4 criteria: task achievement, coherence, cohesion, lexical resource, grammatical range and accuracy. This is separate for task 1 and there is a band descriptor separate for task 2. What are band descriptors? What are band descriptors? What do you understand by the term? The term itself says band descriptors, something that is describing a band, right? So, for example, as we know that they are individually judged, all 4 criteria are individually judged, they get an individual band score, correct? This much we know. So, if you can see, let's talk about task 2. Task response. If your answer is matching with what is written over here, you will get 8 for task response. If your answer matches with this description, you will get 6 for coherence and cohesion. If your answer matches with the description written in this box, you will get 7 for lexical resource. And if it matches with this, you will get 5 for grammatical range and accuracy. Simple, right? Same logic applies for task 1. We have all the descriptions written here for separate bands. This is how your band score is calculated. Now, what is the logic here? The basic idea that you need to understand is, if you know that this is how your writing should be, somewhere between this and this, 8 and 9. So, if you know these band descriptors, if you understand that this is what is being judged, right? So, you will write accordingly so that you get somewhere between 8 and 9. A little plus minus, right? 8 and 9, close to 8 and 9. If you are making any errors, it should be somewhere between that only. Correct? Okay. So, we need to understand what are the band descriptors. We need to understand the difference between the band description of 7, 6, 5 and 8 and 9. Correct? That is important. Understood? So this is what we'll also cover in the sessions when we are doing writing module. We'll understand the difference. We'll look at band description of 5. We'll then see 6. We'll look at the band descriptor of band 5, then 6, 7, 8 and 9. We'll see how the negative points are getting lesser and lesser as the band score is increasing and how the positives are increasing. So this is what we need to understand. Once the understanding is clear, right, that's the first stage. Once the understanding becomes clear, then we can start writing accordingly. Correct? Of course, we also need someone who can check and say, yeah, this is 8. This is close to 8. Or see, there is a negative point of 6 band here mentioned in the band descriptor, which should not be there. Change it, remove it, make it like it sounds like a band description of 8. So we need somebody for doing that. The evaluation is also equally important. Okay, so don't worry, I'll tell you about that as well. Hold your horses. Okay, so far, have you understood how writing module is judged, how the band score is calculated there? Correct? Now let's come to the last module, which is speaking. So speaking module is conducted separately. When I say separately means what? Means listening, reading, writing modules are conducted back to back without any break on the same day. Listening, reading, writing, mostly in this format. Sometimes speaking can be on the same day. It can be a day before. It can be a day after your LRW exam. LRW means listening, reading, writing. So it can be, the gap officially is of 7 day plus minus for speaking module. Speaking module can be conducted 7 day plus or minus of your LRW exam. But normally it is a day or two before or a day or two after your LRW. Sometimes it is also on the same day, but then there is a gap. Okay, so for example, your speaking is conducted in the morning, then there would be a gap of 2 to 3 hours in the between, and then you will have LRW. I hope this much is clear now. Let us look at the format, how the speaking exam is conducted. So speaking exam overall is conducted within a span of 11 to 14 minutes, not more than that. This exam would be face-to-face. That means you will be sitting in front of the examiner to give the test. Sometimes this test can also be conducted on a video call, but in that case as well, you have to visit the exam center. I'll tell you a lot more in detail about this, so don't worry. When we'll do sessions, when we'll cover speaking module, we'll understand this much in detail. Let's have a quick look at the format of speaking module. So your speaking again is conducted in 3 parts. Part 1 is an introductory round. Then in part 2, you get a topic on which you have to speak for around 2 minutes. It's also called a long turn or a cue card. Okay, cue card basically means a card on which a cue is written based on which you have to speak. Okay, don't dig deep into it right now. We'll understand this much more in detail when we are doing sessions. So far, just understand, okay, this is how speaking is conducted. Okay, in part 3, it is a discussion part where the examiner will again ask you certain questions and you will be answering. Overall, in your entire speaking, be it part 1, 2 or 3, there is no technical question asked in speaking. Remember that, okay? Your entire speaking will have very general questions. They can ask you anything under the sun, but nothing rocket science. Anything and everything which you and anyone else can come across day in and day out. So these questions are normally day-to-day based questions. Okay. Now again the question is how speaking is evaluated, because here we don't have the raw score to convert them to IELTS band 9 score, right? So how is speaking evaluated? For writing, we saw that there are 4 criteria. For speaking, again, there are 4 criteria. I'm sure you can guess few of them, right? The fluency and the coherence, right? That's the first criterion. Second one is lexical resource. Third one is grammatical range and accuracy. And the fourth one is pronunciations. So again, in speaking also, it's the same logic as we have for writing. Okay, in writing, what do we have? 4 criteria. Each criterion has equal weightage. Each criterion is judged on a band score of 9. Same. Okay, so here also we have equal weightage of 25% for each criterion. Okay, each criterion is judged on a scale of 9. Again, let's say you get 6 for fluency and coherence, 7 for lexical resource, 6 again for grammatical range and accuracy, and 7 for pronunciation. So your overall would be simply 6.5, means 6 plus 7 plus 6 plus 7 divided by 4. As simple as that, correct? I'm just giving you a raw, rough calculation idea because this is very easy to calculate. So we are taking this calculation right now. But always understand this is how it happens. There is no score in between, okay? You will not get 6.25 or 6.75, okay? There is no 0.25 or 0.75 in IELTS. Remember this. You have 0.5 gap only. So 5, 5.5, 6, 6.5, 7, 7.5, 8, 8.5 and 9, okay? Remember that this is how you have. There's nothing in between. So now there would be a question in your mind, right? If in writing tasks, I get in task 1 and task 2, if my score comes to around 6.30 after calculation. So where would be my score going? So don't worry. I'll talk to you about this when we start the sessions. This is digging a little more deep into it. We'll talk about that. So for now, just understand the basics of as much as is required, okay? Once we start with each module, we'll dig deep a lot in detail about each module. Okay, so just hold. I'll explain after speaking is over. I'll explain what we are going to do in the sessions. So far we are talking about speaking, correct? So here again, you get 6.5 once your score is calculated like this, correct? Again, the question is, who decides? I get 6 out of 9 for fluency and coherence, or just 7, why not more for lexical resource? Who decides, right? Who decides? Again, for this, there are certain set descriptions available. So any examiner, be it from Europe, be it from Australia, be it from the USA, anywhere, be it from India, anyone who is judging your answer will have these set descriptions based on which you will get your band score. See, why is this the case? Because it is an international exam, right? Okay, so here are the band descriptors of speaking. Again, we have 4 criteria: fluency and coherence, lexical resource, grammatical range and accuracy, and pronunciations. So here also, what do we have? The descriptions given for separate band scores. If your answer matches with this description, you get 8 for lexical resource. If your answer matches with this description, if your speaking matches with this description, you get 7, right? So this is how your score is calculated again for speaking as well, just like for writing. I hope now the idea is clear how your writing and speaking band scores are calculated and what is the importance of band descriptors, right? That is the reason why we need to focus a lot on band descriptors when we will be doing these modules in the session. Next is CBT and PBT. What are these two terms? Computer-based test and paper-based test, right? All in all, I would say the difference is just of the experience that you get. When you're giving paper-based test, you have a question paper, you have an answer paper on which you are marking with the help of pen or a pencil, right? It is also called pen-paper test. What is computer-based test? It's a different experience of typing your answers on a computer. Simple, right? So overall, this is the difference, all in all. But then of course, this experience includes minute differences in writing. For example, let's say if you're not very good with typing skills, you would want to write, right? If somebody feels that my writing is not really good, I'm very good at typing, I'm very, pro with computers and all, so I would rather give computer-based. Absolutely, go ahead, do that. Some similar differences are there in reading and listening as well. But then understand that there is no difference in how a band score is calculated, the difficulty level, the scoring, right? Each correct answer will have 1 mark for listening and reading. All that, everything, the difficulty level, the type of questions, the evaluation process, everything remains the same, okay? So there is no difference over there. The only difference is of experience. So what we'll do, we'll understand the difference of computer-based test and paper-based test for each module separately. Whenever we are working on one particular module, we'll talk about the difference of CBT and PBT first so that we can proceed accordingly. So far, we have understood 4 modules. We have seen what is the format for these 4 modules and we have also seen how the band score is calculated for them, correct? We have also seen a tiny difference between CBT and PBT. So I hope now the idea is clear to you people. Now you have understood what is IELTS, you have understood how the band scores are calculated, and how you should start preparing. At the same time, remember that you should focus on as much as required. Okay? Not more, not less. Make sure that your strategy is correct so that within less amount of time, you're able to do better work, faster work, and smarter work.